Hello everyone, Adrienne here, and today I'm coming to you with the first impression of Juvia's Place foundation, the Magic Foundation, which comes in a tube that looks like this, and the outer packaging is a nice coral box with pretty graphics on it as usual. And this is a 1 ml tube, it's 30 milliliters. I also picked up the stick foundation, which comes in a pretty box that looks like this, and the stick foundation comes in a coral tube, and this is how much product you get. I can't read the actual ounces because I don't have my glasses on, but that is the stick foundation, and that is in the color Grenada or Grenade. I'll post the name of what the product is. And I also picked up their concealer, and this is in the shade number 16, and this is what this looks like. And I have to tell you guys, over the summer I was color matched for the Magic Foundation at Ulta. I wasn't told though that this foundation has a tendency to oxidize, so once I got it home I wore it about 3 different times because I love the coverage of it, but after a couple hours of wear it always looked too dark around my face. And the shade that I ended up with, the Punta Cana, was the shade that I thought I would be when I first saw the release of the foundations online, but the girl that was matching me said no, and we did the little color stripes on the face, but because I don't know if it was because it was summer or because I didn't let it sit long enough, I didn't end up with that one, so I took it back. So I do know how this particular foundation wears. I will come back and tell you some of my final thoughts on that towards the end, but this is the first time that I've ever had the stick foundation, so I was happy to try that and their concealer. But without further ado, I'm going to show you the application of these products and then come back with my first opinion. So to get started with my foundation routine, I always go in with the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Orange underneath my eyes to cancel out the dark circles, and I take a little bit on the bridge of my nose where I get marks, permanent marks from my glasses. And boy, I'm picking the perfect day to try this concealer out. I have 2 big zits, so we'll see how it covers it up. I got this big one here, and then I have this one that I actually picked at this morning, so it's all red and scabbed over, so we'll see how well these products cover that. And I try not to put too much orange on. I purposely have not put my primer on that I usually put on my under eye, so I want to see how this is all going to blend out, and I'm taking an angled Just Up brush to blend this orange color corrector in, so it's not super concentrated in one spot. And now that I have that blended in pretty well, I keep wanting to color correct that pimple on my forehead, but I'm not going to do it. Okay, and I did not use too much of that orange. I think I usually use a little bit more, so I'll be fair and go in with just a couple dabs more. A little bit of this does go a long way. You really don't need a lot of product, especially if you've got more mature skin around the eye, because the more of that you put around your eye, the more chance you have for crepiness. So now that I'm done getting this all blended in, what I typically do is I typically take this metal palette here and I put my concealer onto the metal palette. Now this concealer, and I'm going to have to put the shade name up on the screen because I can't remember what it is and I don't have my reading glasses on, so I won't be able to read it for you, but I think, oh, it's number 16. I think I probably should have gone with number 14. I may have to take this back. This is really, really light, but hopefully with the orange color corrector, I can get it to look decent enough for the video to tell what the coverage is going to be like. So this is about how much I start, well, maybe a little bit more. I just rub the concealer on my metal palette here, and then I take another Just Up brush and I just dab it onto the palette and pick the product up like this, and then that way I'm able to dab it under my eyes. I don't typically put my applicator under my eyes. I don't like to contaminate my concealer like that. I feel like it I don't know if it really makes it last longer. Oh my gosh, this is so light. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pull this off for this video. We'll have to make it work somehow. This is really, really light. Maybe I'll just have to set this with a different setting powder. I usually use a translucent one, but I'm going to have to use one with color in it to tone some of the lightness down, because this is definitely not the right shade. I hope I can get it to look good enough though to get a first impression. And I always go to the outer corner of my eyes. I like to lift the outer corner of my eye with my concealer and clean up any mess that I don't want there. Sometimes I leave it a little blown out, but a lot of times I like a sharper line because it helps it to give that cat eye effect without necessarily drawing one. So that's one of my favorite things to do with my concealer. And this is so light. It's definitely a heavier coverage concealer. We'll see how it does sitting, because I typically go ahead and do the rest of my foundation and let the concealer sit before I set it. So we'll see how this foundation does while I do the rest of my face. I typically let it set in the fine lines and go over it, dabbing with this brush a few times, going in backwards this way to fill in any of the crepiness that I may have under the eyes. And this is the I Am Magic foundation in the shade Punta Cana. And I'm going to use a damp beauty blender to apply this. So I'm squeezing some of this out of the tube now. Probably should get to blending and see how some of this does before I end up with too much foundation, with this being a full coverage. And I like to use the butt of the sponge. It's blending pretty well. I don't know, I may be able to dab over that concealer with a little bit of this foundation and save the look a little. Doesn't look like it's super heavy using the damp beauty blender. Wow, it's covering up the darkness. I don't feel like I need to use any other color corrector on my face, and that pimple up there is almost non-existent. Going around the scarf, it looks like I need maybe just a dab more of the foundation. A little bit over here. But it's blending out really nice and quick, which is a good thing for me, because if you have been following me for any length of time, you know, you've heard me say that I don't like to blend out foundation. And this year in 2020, because I have bought so much foundation, I'm definitely going to be doing more foundation reviews for you guys, because I have just bought so much stuff and not talked to you guys about it. A lot of times I'll come give you updates on foundations, but I don't think I really have videos where I show the routine of how I do apply my foundation. I'm going to take the butt of this and just go in and tone this down a little bit on the edges, and it doesn't seem to be too bad. I think the powder is going to take care of it, and I'm really impressed so far with the coverage. I want to make sure I bring this down enough before I contour. Okay, looking pretty good. It feels good. You know, I forgot to put a primer on, but that's pretty cool. I did my skincare before I did this. I did not put a primer on at all. So I'm really putting it to the test. I didn't put the normal primer on my under eye that I usually do, and I did not put it on my face, which I wasn't sure which primer I wanted to use anyway. Let's see, I'm going to go back under, like I said, coming in backward. Just come down a little bit more. I hope I can make this concealer work. I hate when I have to take back products like this and they're just going to put them in the trash. That's the thing about ordering foundations online that I don't care for. Originally this Punta Cana was the color that I thought that I should have, and then when I went in to get color match for the foundation, I was told over the summer that I needed a different shade, and once I got it home, it was way too dark on my skin, and I ended up taking it back because this foundation, and they told me at Ulta when I took it back that it is known to oxidize a little bit and get darker. So it was way too dark. I love the coverage of it, and I did wear it like 3 times. So this is not my first time wearing the Juvia's Place I Am Magic foundation. This is my second tube of it, but this color, I should have gone with my gut and stuck with this first color. So this is looking pretty good. I was gonna take, well, maybe I can highlight a little bit right in here with the stick just to see what I think of it as a highlight. And the stick is in the shade, what is it? Grenade or Grenada. I'll put it up on the screen. In case you haven't seen the stick, this is what it looks like. And that is the color. I think it's a little too light, but I would like it for a highlighting shade. So I'm going to bounce that out and reverse contour under my cheekbone, and I'm being careful not to use the side of the sponge that already has the I Am Magic foundation on it. Maybe I can take a little bit of this on the forehead just to see how it's going to do. I don't want to make my forehead super duper greasy and down the nose. I'll do a little bit above the lip and right here on the chin. Since I didn't put any primer on, and that's why I normally get oily, I don't know if I will right now with it being winter. I've been so super dry, so it may not. And sometimes above the lip, this beauty sponge and right on the chin, I like to roll it instead of bouncing it, so I don't get as dark of a mark. And it doesn't seem like these foundations are covering up the darkness around my mouth as much as I want it to. I would probably still go in with some peach color corrector there, but I think I'm going to stop blending and go ahead and set my face. And I'm going to use for the under eye for sure the Maybelline Fit Me powder in the shade 30. I think it's medium deep. Trying to get this to come into focus for you. I typically use for the rest of my face my Mary Kay translucent setting powder. I think I may use that on the rest of my face because I do like the color of the foundation, and that's why I prefer translucent powders. I don't want to mess with the color of it. I think the match looks pretty good. This darkness around my neck here, the crease in my neck right here is usually normally darker, and then this gets a little bit lighter, so I am going to leave that alone for now. I haven't decided. I think I will go ahead and contour underneath the chin. So for contouring, I'm going to go ahead and use my Revolution Ultra Pro HD Cream Contour. All the writing is worn off of it, and I'm going to go in with this shade here, taking an e.l.f. contouring brush and just picking up a little bit of that product and lightly applying it on the cheekbone. I don't want too much. Because I usually put bronzer over it. And now I'm going to go right along the jawline and contour a little bit. Don't want to go overboard with the contour, but we got to contour something. And I guess I can do a little bit down the bridge of the nose. I'm going to use this color instead of the other one. It's a little bit lighter, has a little more warmth to it. Kind of hard with this brush to get super close to the eye. But there we go. Sitting my brush down now. And for a powder to set my forehead, I typically use my Revolution Banana Press powder. And I take one of these Sonia Kashuk sponges to use it. Just rub a little bit on. Oh, I got more than a little bit. I better have a light hand. Just going down the bridge of the nose and where I put the cream product. I want to get it set lightly. I don't think I would have probably needed to do this had I not put that stick foundation in the center of my forehead. I don't want to chance it with that, especially since I didn't use any matte primer. I don't think I'm going to put any on the cheeks down here. I'm just going to set it with my regular translucent powder and see how the foundation does. Okay, I am not going to let this bake. I don't typically bake. So I'm going to dust that banana powder off. And I have not forgotten to set my under eye. I'm just seeing how long this takes before it dries down. Going back in. Just cleaning that up a little bit. Making sure the concealer got in all the little creases. Yeah, this is a little bit awkward. Now that I put the foundation down, I find that I can go up on the outer corners with this shade. I may be able to get away with this. To set my under eye, I use this Real Techniques brush. It's one of the Instapop. I think it's the Instapop blush brush. I'm not sure what it's called. I'll put the name of it on the screen, but I'm going to go in with that Maybelline Fit Me powder in 30. I'm going to use what's in the cap first, this small amount. Make sure I get it all the way on the edge so it goes completely under my eye. I got this brush last month and I have been loving it for setting my under eye. Well, the concealer didn't feel completely dried down, like as I'm setting it. With the brush, it still feels a little tacky. Ooh, I went a little ham with this powder. Tap a little bit of it off and set this other under eye. Pretty decent. Since we are doing face products, and this is pretty much all Juvia's Place, let me get this lid on this. All I need is to knock this off. I am going to go in with my Saharan blush palette, Volume 2, and I want to use the color Leena. So let me reach back and grab a blush brush for that. And this is a BH Cosmetics, one of their, I don't know if this is the number 2. So going in with this BH Cosmetic marble brush, it's a number 2 brush. And I really like it to put my blush on before I set my powder, because I find that it helps to soften the color of the blush and make it look like you're glowing from within. And if I get more blush color than what I want, I can always soften it up with the powder. So this is the way I typically do my makeup. I don't put my blush on unless I'm adding more color after my setting powder. So now I'm going to sit that down, and I will be going in with a BH Cosmetics, the number 1 powder brush, and I'm going to take that Mary Kay translucent powder to set the rest of my face because I don't want to upset the color of the foundation. So I just put a little bit in the cap. I hate it when I get too much powder in my brush and it goes everywhere. So just dabbing that and lightly sweeping it. Strangely enough, even for a matte foundation, it feels like I needed to set my face and I need some more powder. I'm getting low on this. Thank goodness I got a bunch of it. Get up on that forehead. I'm not going to go too ham on the forehead. If you remember, I already set it with that banana powder in the center, and I'm going to use some bronzer around the borders, and by the time I have my highlighter on, that's enough. Get under the chin to set that cream contour. And a lot of times I just dab my brush. That's why I like the fluffier brushes when I'm doing my foundation, so I don't feel like I'm disturbing the finish of it. So this is the finished look before I put any highlighter on, and I'm going to go ahead and use that Saharan Blush Volume 2 palette, I think, because this one should turn out to be a pretty decent highlight. Let me reach back and grab another brush, and this is the BH Cosmetic out of the Marble set. This one is the number 5. I'm going to go into this shade, I think it's Zoba, and just put a little bit right up here. Probably not going to do too much because this is a lot, turns really pinkish gold and I don't want it to take over the look. Put a little bit up here, but I'm going to go in with some bronzer here. Just a little bit here on the bridge of my nose to highlight. Taking a Real Techniques Rebel, I think it's called a Rebel Pro brush. This is the biggest one. There's 3 of them that come in a set. I'm going to take my Morphe Showmance bronzer, and I'm going to use the half of it that isn't shimmery and just add a little bit of bronzer around the forehead and warm this foundation up a little bit. One by the cheeks a little. I like to bring it down around the chin. I'm going to stop right here and finish the rest of my makeup. I am in the middle of filming the Nomad's palette First Impression, so I will post a link to that video above here if you want to check out how I created this eye look, but I'll be back with the completed look. So for my first opinion of the Magic Foundation, it's not really my first opinion. This is my 4th or 5th time, like I said, in this foundation. In the Punta Cana shade, this is my 2nd time having it on. I ordered it Ulta online and it showed up yesterday, so I squeezed a little bit out of the tube, enough to do this half of my face before I went to run some errands, and I took the stick foundation and put it on the other half of my face. I did sleep in this foundation and I had it on for about 24 hours, which I know was a no-no, and I already had the breakouts on my face before I went to sleep in the makeup, so that's not what caused the breakouts. But the one thing that really stood out to me as impressive with the stick foundation is a lot of times creams and sticks foundations can break my cheek out right through here. I can always tell if it's the product type breakout because this is where I'll typically get the big cystic acne bumps that take 3 to 4 days, if not longer, to heal because they won't come to the surface so that they can be popped. But I didn't have that problem even sleeping in the foundation, and it really didn't make this pimple here any worse than what it already was. Not that I'm recommending that you sleep in your makeup, because that's definitely not a thing that you should do. But I will say that this, and I think it's supposed to be a light to medium coverage or a medium buildable coverage. You can definitely feel this product on your face. On my face, it felt thick and heavy. I knew that I had something on my skin. It did feel emollient, but not greasy. I would definitely have to set this with some powder, and I did. It still doesn't wear as long as the I Am Magic foundation, which is a matte formulation. And I could see where my face was divided right down the middle. I could tell the amount of coverage on this side because I put the full coverage on this side, and I just used my fingertips to apply both of them to each side of the face, but it was obvious that this was full coverage and it looked matte, but it didn't look like that dry matte, and I didn't spray any setting spray on it and it still looked pretty decent. This one did feel like I said, I had product on, and it felt like it would take work to wear it and wear it well. Like I would be worried about my skin looking oily throughout the day. It did have some oils pop through on the forehead because I do have combination skin, so that's typically where I get oily. So you could see one half of the face exactly how I divided it. This side was oily. This side had no oils at all. And I determined that I wasn't going to take this back. I'm pretty sure this shade is just a smidgen too light for me. I could use a stick a little bit darker because it didn't look bad, but I think I would prefer to have it just one shade darker, but I thought I would use it to highlight the center of the face and down the nose, and also reverse contour, meant to say, on the cheekbones. So I think I'm going to keep it because I hate returning foundations and things like that anyway to the store, knowing that they're just going to throw them away. And as soon as I saw the concealer shade that I ordered, I knew that I probably should have ordered this one in a 14. A 15 still probably would have been too light, but at least a 14. But I do think that it turned out okay with the way I blended it with the foundation. I did yesterday, after I got the foundations on each half of my face, I went ahead and put a little dab underneath my eye, and I did take a blending brush, a little flat top small, not a blending brush, but a flat top small kabuki brush, and just kind of blended it out. And it didn't look stark white. I went in with that Maybelline Fit Me powder just like I did today, and the color looked the same as it did now. I didn't really notice it creasing much, but like I said, I didn't put the primer underneath my eye that I usually use, and it is the Revolution Superfruit Extract Primer. I use that with any primer that I'm using under my eye, and I tend to not get as much creasing. So today I wanted to see what it would do without that primer. So that's really not truly a fair test because I typically don't do that with any primer. I try to smooth my under eye out as much as possible, but I definitely like the color better having my orange color corrector on before I put this light shade of concealer on. I think I will be able to use it. If you guys think that this looks too light as I'm recording, please leave a comment down in the description box and I will take it back and get a darker shade. But like I said, I hate when they have to throw these type of products out. But as far as creasing goes with the concealer, I do notice that I'm starting to crease some. Right before I started recording this, I did go back under, even though I set it with powder with this brush, and I just stamped, and it smoothed out all the creasing. So even after setting it with the powder, it's not going to dry down so bad that you can't kind of correct it, because it smoothed out a lot of the creasing. I don't know if you can see in here. I did not do it to this eye. I hope that it's apparent. You can see where this eye is starting to crease a little more. Yesterday I also noticed without the color corrector, which happens with all my concealers, I could still see quite a bit of darkness right in here. So I definitely have to use a color corrector underneath the concealer. It won't conceal everything for me on its own. But this shade's not too bad. It is, I think, somewhat wearable. Overall, I have to say that I had no problems with either of the foundations, besides maybe wanting that stick a little bit darker, but I think, like I said, I'll keep it for a highlighting foundation, and maybe even pick up a darker one for contour if I decide I want to use stick foundations on the cheekbones, because sometimes I like being able to just draw it on and blend it out with your sponge versus how I put it on with that Revolution Cream Contour kit. Sometimes I don't like having that big bulky kit with me, especially when I'm traveling, versus having a small tube and then having to have that blending brush that I had from e.l.f. I don't particularly like the way blending the foundation out with that brush feels. I just do it because it works well. But I may pick up some more and end up with, you know, a couple of them to use. But overall, the I Am Magic foundation, even when I had it this summer, I tried my hardest to make that shade work. It just obvious. It was so obvious. I even wore, I think I wore it in a video, and I put a turtleneck on to cover up my neck so you couldn't see how dark my face was versus the neck. So I'm excited to have it in this coverage. And I was really concerned with it drying my face out too much because a lot of the matte foundations, with it being winter and all, I'm not able to wear them right now. I didn't experience that problem at all. This side of my face didn't get any drier yesterday, and I didn't put any primer on yesterday either with any of these products. Just like today doing this video, this is with no primer. Yes, I did do my skincare right before I filmed the video, but I did not put on any primer. So this is just the foundations and concealers on their own. So I definitely do think they're impressive. I think that this foundation, when it's not on sale, the I Am Magic is $20, and the stick foundation is $16, and the concealer, I want to say, is $12. If any of those prices were wrong, though, I will correct it on the screen. But I hope that this video helped you out. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. You'll also want to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button so YouTube notifies you every time I upload a new video. I'll see you guys soon.